Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for the OPTC video, and in today's video, we're doing a deep dive discussion into one of the most controversial game modes, if not the most controversial, being Grand Voyage. And in today's video, I want to do a deep dive into all of the stages of Grand Voyage, where it was to where it is now, the previous ones that we had, and now the newer ones that we have, and what this game mode does and why it is so frustrating and ruffles people the wrong way. When we first got information on this game mode, it was advertised to us as a game mode that dives into our box to use characters that we haven't touched in a very long time. And whilst that was true, it came out alongside the level limit break update, which included new abilities, 9 copies, and level 150. Little did we know that would be kind of essential for pretty much majority of the Grand Voyages moving forward. But like I said, in today's video, I do want to dive back in time, take a look about where it was, how the game mode has developed, how you as a player should look at this game mode and try and play this game mode without pulling your teeth or your hair out, and understanding the concepts of what it is and what it does well and what it really doesn't do well. But if you enjoy the video, belt the like button. While you're down there, hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of this game mode. I mean, this is a discussion video. I'd love to discuss this with you guys. I'd love you guys to discuss this as well, so please let me know any thoughts and opinions. Let me know your favorite or your least favorite Grand Voyage in the comment section below, and let me know how you guys feel about this game mode moving forward. But with that said, let's dive into the crux of Grand Voyage. Alright, let's dive back to 1 year ago. Over 1 year ago, actually, with our boy Yoshi. Shout out to Yoshi. He's back from Super Mario World's, whatever the new Super Mario is. Yoshi giving us details on Grand Voyage in the producer video of, I don't even know which one it is, but the permanent game mode comes, and what I do want to give them credit for is going back in time and rehashing all of the story mode content in terms of the actual stages, building content around it that involves you needing to bring a particular character that was involved in that particular scene. Future City, for example, needs you to bring a Shanks, which is great, to take on the local sea monster, because that's how it happened in the anime, that's how it happened in the manga. But what it doesn't do great is the fact that it is so restrictive to a class and a color that you are so shoehorned into building a particular team, and some of these pieces of content can literally be cleared with 1 to 2 different teams. Now, yes, as time goes on, we get super evolutions and new characters that does make this easy. And look, this content isn't meant to be beaten overnight. The end game players, the real end game players, will be able to do so. But I do want to give them credit, as level 3 is very interesting. Usually level 3 involves just using the color or the type, so that way you can just build a team of a monotyping to take it down and get these rewards. Level 1 and 2 also give you a lot of flexibility because you don't need to bring particular type teams, but stage 1 will stereotypically give you cooldowns to make it quicker, to make it easier, and all that sort of stuff as well. So if you're a newer player, or a newer player moving into the mid-game and trying stuff like Grand Voyage, if you can do level 2, level 3 even, look, be very, very happy with that, because this content, it's not designed for the faint of heart. As of being a mid to end game player, if you can do level 3, be happy with that. And if you can't, don't stress. These content will come over time as you keep developing your box. I really want to drill that into people and really reiterate that over and over and over again. This content will come over time. You don't have to beat it today, because honestly, the rewards don't justify how much you actually need for this game mode. So have as much fun with it as possible, but be mindful, when you complete a Grand Voyage, you then have to go back and use stamina to play it again. And I think that is the massive drawback to the content. Making the player use stamina, and I hope that they take feedback on this and just remove that concept of it, because it would just change a lot when it comes to game mode. Like, just take away the concept of needing stamina to play Grand Voyage after you beat it. Yoshi, I can see that face. Please, for the love of God, get rid of it. That way people can clear level 2, move on to the next one, and then do level 3 later without losing their stamina, which mid-game and new game players really need to build up stuff like resources for their account and stuff like that. Now, they did release an update where you can just select any Grand Voyage. That is amazing. It's an excellent update, and I love that. But I do think they just need to remove the stamina, the cost of stamina, completely when it comes to this mode. So starting off at Fuchsia Village. Now, this is the epitome of the development of Grand Voyage content. Now, once upon a time, this was the hardest quest to complete in all of the Grand Voyages. It was very restrictive. You needed a Shanks, Cerebral, and a mono side build team. It basically required you have level 5, 150 Limit Break Expanded V1 Shanks and Shanks Crew. Like, you needed those units. That was the be-all, end-all. But getting level 3 done was actually a lot of fun. We could use the old-school 6-star Roger. You could build out a mono Psy team, and you can actually like have an array of different teams that could get level 3 done. But in saying that, like, level 3, it's still no scoff. Like, you still had 10 turns of damage reduction to get around. You still had a bunch of other stuff that you had to work with. And even still, taking down level 3 was still a lot of HP. So had a lot of stuff that you had to get around too. So whilst level 5 was very hard, level 3 still had its cruxes. But basically, to get level 5 done, you needed a very heavily invested friend captain. Now, as I mentioned, you did need a V1 Shanks at level Limit Break 5, level 150, and Limit Break Expanded to get it done. On top of that, your team needed to look like this. Now, this is atrocious for a day 1 release. On top of that, level Limit Break had just come out at the same time as this content. Not a lot of people had 10 copies of V1 Shanks just sitting there ready to go to max out their Shanks. So this took a little while to actually get done. And that's what I really want to stress with this type of content is you don't have to complete it overnight. If you can get level 3 done, be very happy with that. If you can get level 2 done and you're having fun with the content, be happy with that. You can sort of build up your account over time, watch some videos, check out some content, and see what characters you actually need to take this down. So this was the original team to get it done. This was the original run. It was very, very challenging, and even still, with all this investment, it was very, very tough to actually get everything to work in its favor. After time went on, though, we did have the release of Neko and Inu 6+, and this is what I mean by the development of the content for what we have in the game. And obviously, with natural power creep and 6+s, means that we are going to see a lot more teams and a lot more develop in the content. But as you can see, I'm scrolling down on the right-hand side. There is a lot of videos in between this one right here and the local sea monster with 6+ Neko Inu. So if we scroll back here, this is at video number, where am I? Video number 16. About 34 videos later, all the way down here at video 50, is the most overpowered team versus local sea monster. Now, this became an absolute meme. Ironically, with the release of Cat Viper and Dogstorm 6+, made this content so much easier. We also had stuff like Rayleigh Gaban's release, Annal's release, then we got stuff like Hawkins and Anniversary Shanks, and those types of units did make it a little bit easier as well. But a big downside to this particular fight too is we never actually had a super class or super type unit for Psy Cerebral, and it made it a little bit more challenging. But as time went on, and we got more and more units to release, we could stop using characters like Shanks Crew, which was basically essential for the entire longevity of this content. With Annal's release, you had end of turn damage, you can get a resilience that way. But in saying that, it still took a long time for this to happen. Now, for new players aren't going to have Neko Inu and Shanks Crew 6+ all maxed out. It's just not going to be a thing, mainly because they're gated into a Kazuna jail that doesn't allow them to pick up the skulls for everything they need. And whilst, yeah, sure, these types of teams are very, very buildable without stuff like your Shanks Crew 6+, you can even easily bring a Shanks Crew 6+, you still need at least one of these characters to be maxed. So that is a big downside for newer players. It's good that they're rewarding the older players with stuff like this, and obviously with this particular fight, now, with Shanks Crew 6+, Neko Inu 6+, I actually managed to complete this with support rare recruit Brule on the team, which was just an absolute meme to get this done. But it was very, very nice to see that they made this disgustingly hard piece of content, and with new characters coming over time, we can now beat this with a bunch of other units. So that is an upside to Grand Voyage, and something that I do want to give them credit for is they are releasing 6+s and all that sort of stuff that is great to take this content down, but honestly, it shouldn't have been this hard in the first place to allow us, I don't know, a year and a bit later to now meme the content in a way that is, like, disgustingly memeable, when really it should have just sort of sat within that middle point of hard, but not disgustingly hard. Another thing about this fight as well is even with the release of stuff like Anniversary Shanks, who newer players can easily just throw money at the game and pick up. Yes, obviously it is an Anniversary exclusive unit. They only come around on Anniversary exclusive banners. This particular character, honestly, has an argument to be more accessible to some people than actually getting the 6+ skulls of both Shanks' crew and Neko and Inu. So on top of that, I'm still using Neko Inu on this team and a friend captain Shanks' crew 6+. So that is a huge downside to content like this, being gated into just restrictive units and needing XYZ. But it is nice to see that here we are, you know, a year later with a whole bunch of characters to absolutely mean this content. Moving on to Alvida's hideout now, and Alvida was actually a lot easier to get done. Now, as you can see, this was my very first team to take down this particular fight. The upside to Alvida's hideout is it needed a Luffy fighter strength unit. And we had a lot of very good Luffys in the game, like V1 Snake Man 6+. The Straw Hat Crew V2 had just come out for New Year's. And we even had the OG Super Type Snake Man 2. So you had a lot of options when it came to building for this particular fight. Plus, it didn't need that many restrictive characters. All the characters that you needed to bring were accessible in the way that you could get them to level 150. You had the Treasure Map Kid, who you could pick up more copies for. You had the PvP unit in Foxy. I was using Garp at the time as well. And honestly, whilst this is still very hard content, it's by far the easiest of the Grand Voyages. And this is one that I want to highlight is probably a little bit too easy. You guys can disagree with me down below, but honestly, I found this particular fight to be a lot easier than any other fight in the Grand Voyages, and it's honestly not even close, mainly because we had access to something like V2 Straw Hat Crew. But in saying that as well, as this content, or as the power creep developed, we got more level limit breaks and other characters came out, namely something like Bullet. It actually just got easier and easier and easier, and this is a really, really good thing to see with level limit break and other characters that are just regular batch units coming out to help decimate the content. The problem is with this particular fight, if it does decide to load anytime soon, is that we still needed Bullet to be level limit break 5. Now, Bullet makes this content and this fight so easy with what he does, removing barriers and damage null and all of that fun stuff. Plus, he's now an attack booster. Damage, normal attacks only don't actually matter to Bullet. He does like end of turn damage, and it's very, very good. But it still requires you to have 9 copies of the unit. So the development of Alvida's hideout was completely different to Local Sea Monster. It was never really needed to develop, but it's good to see that it followed the same path at a much faster rate than Local Sea Monster, but never had that real issue of actually getting it done to begin with. As time went on, we could basically take it down with stuff like, I think I had a video here with Who's Who. So I used a Strength, Dex, and Quick team, having one of each of them on the team to actually get that done. The easiest Grand Voyage here with level limit break Bullet. Like, this fight was not hard, and honestly, I haven't even really gone back to do it in a very long time. I think I did it with Page 1. Yeah, Page 1's release. I think I used him. He was really, really good for it. The Legend Ulti is a great character that came out. She removes Despair. This particular Ulti right here. She's a fantastic character. Now that we have access to Garp as well, being in the PKA shop, you guys have so many options when it comes to taking down Alvida's hideout. But like I said, if you're comparing the pair, Local Sea Monster, Alvida's hideout, they're not even close. Alright, so next we had Shell's Town, and Shell's Town is a very interesting one because it wasn't as challenging as the Local Sea Monster to get done. There were a lot of different options that you guys could bring to take it down, but this was my level 3 team initially to do it. The big downside to the Grand Voyage at Shelltown against Morgan was that you needed a slasher dex unit that had hunger to do level 5, and there was only one character that had that at the time, which was Carrot Wanda. Now, Carrot Wanda are an exceptional legend. Most people should have them by now, but at the time, like, this was a treasure map unit that a lot of people skipped because they didn't really see the value in the unit. However, it took a very, very long time for us to get another character that actually has hunger. So, hunger was an ability that you needed at level 3, I believe. Yeah, you need 3 hunger stacks to get rid of, and there's no other slasher that had that. However, we then did get the release of Hiyori, who actually had hunger as well. Hiyori was also really, really good for level 4 to remove Blind and Despair and stuff like that, so she was a fantastic unit. But on release, if you guys didn't have Carrot and Wanda, you were in a really, really bad spot for taking down Shellstown. With time and as it went on, we did get releases of stuff like 5+ Roger. We got 5+ Odin, who are available in the PKA shop now. And we have a lot of different options to take down this particular fight. But the fact that you needed a treasure map legend, a treasure map unit for such a long time to actually take this down because of a limit break ability, was just kind of obnoxious, if I'm completely honest with you. As you guys can see here, I'm sort of scrolling down the side. I don't even know did I even put out a video with Hiyori? I don't think I did a video when Hiyori came out, but I definitely did one when this guy came out. So then we had like Zoro come out. He's a fantastic unit. And the upside to Shellstown is there are a lot of very, very good Zoro slashes. You had this particular Zoro that you see on screen here. You had the Super Type Zoro. It was built for V1 Zoro level limit break. And an upside to Shellstown that I do want to give it credit for is it didn't require you to have that particular unit that they built the content around. So with Treasure Map Lore, as you can see here, his release, you had the Treasure Map Tashigi, who was essential at the time. Like you needed Tashigi, but she was a free-to-play character. You could max her out very easily. That was a very, very nice thing to see for Shellstown. Shellstown had a lot of options, but the only downside was this Carrot and Wonder situation that didn't get resolved until Hiyori was in the game. Now, we have options not only like this particular Zoro, but you also have Shanks and Buggy, who's a very, very good unit for this as well. Taking this down very, very nicely. But still, you do need that either Hiyori or you need the Carrot Wonder to get around that hunger stacks. But there is the 5+ Brook, who is a deck slasher now, that can actually take this fight down too, because he can actually give you recovery of. So Shellstown it's a great example of content that is still very hard, but still requires particular units that have particular abilities, but now isn't gated behind particular like an exclusive banner. So Shellstown gets a tick for me. Whilst it's still hard content, that we also got Cat Viper Dogstorm, who made it very, very easy too. And just the array of characters that you can use is just really nice to see. Moving into Orangetown, there was two particular Grand Voyages here, and the first was against Buggy, and then the next one was against Luffy. Now, getting level 5 done against Buggy was one of the hardest at the time, or seemed to be the most challenging. There didn't really seem to be that much option in team building, and there were a couple of units that you had to bring. You had Luffy, the time skip Luffy, unevolved, that was like the unit they wanted you to bring, but Brook was the big one. This particular Brook you see on the side here, the Sugofest exclusive Brook, was basically a must bring. You didn't have any other option because you needed his revive mechanic to take down this particular fight. There wasn't a particular mechanic later down the line where you basically died and then you just sort of come back. Other than that, you had to bring the rare recruit Robin. You needed this Boa at level 150. Telmeppo was pretty essential too, but there was a particular character that came out that made it very, very nice. However, before that release of Lore, we needed to bring a Sabo and Ace. Now, Sabo and Ace, they were a Kazuna unit, limited behind a Kazuna banner, which is another big problem, just like the Carrot Wonder thing. But this unit was a little bit more desirable. So a lot of people already had this character, and people who didn't really struggled, or if they missed that particular part of the game, they weren't playing at the time of this very first Super Boss, and they were missing a Sabo, made it very, very hard to actually take this particular fight down. Now, this was like a level 5 team here, I believe. This was my level 4 run, but I just didn't have the investment to get level 5 complete. Now, Buggy is another Grand Voyage that shows the development over time, because we got this particular lore. When this lore came out, this Grand Voyage became a lot easier. You needed to set defense to 0 on the final stage. Lore did that, and this is a great character example of a regular batch legend that made this content a lot easier, and that's always a good thing, and that's what Grand Voyage will continue to do. Just with generic power creep over time, you will get more units that can help you take down this particular fight. But this is the team they really wanted you to bring in the initial stage. And whilst it's not the craziest team in the world, the investments behind it were just so drastic. And having someone that had a time skip Luffy at level 5, and I think Limit Break expansion was like a must, was incredibly challenging. But then as soon as Lore came out, Lore basically just destroyed it. On top of the fact that Lore was a very good legend, or still is a very good legend, he has a super class to Cerebrals, which makes it very, very nice. So Lore he absolutely decimated this particular mode, and as long as we keep getting legends like this for Grand Voyage, it's going to make things a little bit better. And whilst these legends make these fights a lot easier, these Grand Voyages are very, very old. I don't know why my computer is taking so long to load stuff today, so apologies about that. Whilst this is a great thing, this particular fight it's so old, and we have a lot of other Grand Voyages to talk about that don't have this same benefit. So the fight against Buggy nowadays isn't overly challenging, but what you can do with this fight, and it was a big resurrection of a mechanic, was the resilient sockets. And whilst I am not a guy that messes with resilient sockets all that much, seeing resilient sockets come back into the game was actually very, very nice. With Super Tandem Shanks release and the 6+ of Luffy, the Red Rock Luffy in the game, allowed us to utilize this mechanic and this ability to take down these particular fights. So, there was a fight that I used the Sabo for, and there was a fight that I used Red Rock Luffy. Where's the Red Rock Luffy one? Yeah, there he is. These particular units just made it a lot easier, and then with Super Tandems, like from what Sabo has, the Super Tandem of Shanks as well, just made this content so much easier and so much nicer to digest with generic power creep. But in saying that, like, you still needed the usual culprits. Like, you still have Boa here, you still have this Robin, this rare recruit Robin was still staples. Brook, as a captain, was still a must-have for this particular fight. And whilst that's not a bad thing because they'd given us a lot more time to max out these particular characters, having this unit still be around just shows us that they have thought about this in the way that we're building the content around this character, and then everything else has to be built around that. And unless you get a bespoke character that is just going to replace this particular unit and what he does, you are going to be stuck just bringing the same characters. Again, look, we have Bo, we have Robin, we have Sabo and Ace. They're basically just must-brings every single time. Sabo and Ace. There's like a double law situation going on. We've got Boa here, you got Robin. So yes, we do get more characters that make this content easier, but you can clearly see that they have looked at characters, built a team, and gone, alright, let's just build the content around that. Alright, so moving on to the next Orange Town, we had Verse Luffy, and this one they wanted to use a Buggy, and this was another really, really, really good example of a piece of content that had a lot of options. They had a lot of different characters at disposal that you could easily bring and easily use to take this fight down. And there was a lot of very good int buggies at the time, but they really wanted you to use the legend level limit break buggy. And this particular fight, just like Alvida, was another really, really good example of what they did right with Grand Voyage. They gave us a lot of options of team building. They released a lot of characters later down the line that were very, very good for taking this down. But even still, on initial release, like, you could just bring a friend captain buggy, bring your own buggy that didn't even need to be level limit break 5, and then that way you could just easily get it done. However, the initial team had this weird Akainu on it. Like, you had to like tap through blindness, and that was a bit challenging. But you had he was free to play. The Perone is very easy to attain. Moria wasn't too hard to get at the time as well. Like, the characters that they wanted you to bring, or the team that they built it around, wasn't one that was super exclusive. As time went on, they gave us more options. People broke down the game a little bit more with stuff like the dual Blackbeard, with stuff like Katakuri and his delay mechanic on the final stage. That was working really, really well. But then one character came out that just made it an absolute cakewalk, and that was Blackbeard 6+. When Blackbeard 6+ came out, it was just so damn easy. You had to keep your cost below a certain amount, which is what made it a little bit challenging to team build for. But stuff like Coliseum, page 1, utilizing stuff like this Galette that you can see there works really, really nicely. And you couldn't use stuff like Orb Boost, is what made Buggy so nice. But even still, with all the gimmicks that they were trying to throw at us, it really wasn't that challenging. We had Heat and Wire, we had Kid come out, the Super Tandem abilities of them made it very easy. But like I said, the Blackbeard, this Blackbeard right here, he was the one that really just absolutely destroyed the content. And this is another really good example of why 6+s are very good for the game, because they absolutely tear through harder content, and it's what we kind of want to see from them, to be honest. There was the 6+ dual unit Olin, which is very good for this too. We had this particular Olin come out, and that's quite nice. But these are the characters that make this type of content. Oh, hang on, this is the Boreate. That's not right. These are the type of characters that you want to see take down this sort of these types of Grand Voyages, because they don't require 6+. Now we have the Treasure Map Blackbeard. Like I said, the list goes on and on. So this one here at Orangetown for myself, like, this is the pinnacle of Grand Voyage. I think this is probably the best one we've ever had, because it was just so much fun to diversify your team building and have different options. That Fortnite Buggy, for crying out loud. Like, it just worked so damn well, and was a lot of fun actually taking this particular content down. Next, we went to Syrup Village, and we went up against Kuro. Now, Kuro needed a Dex shooter team, and this is another really good example of a particular fight that wasn't overly or drastically hard and too restrictive. They wanted us to bring Usopp, but the most vital unit was actually the rare recruit Shinobu and is it Shinobu and Momo? I think it's Shinobu and Momo, yeah. That was the most vital unit. Now, this particular fight had a lot of different variations of Usopps you could bring. I actually brought the free-to-play Usopp. There's this one where I actually just chucked any, like, the legend 6+ Usopp on the team. They were not level limit break 5. I used a friend captain Sabo and A, so we took away the fact of actually needing stuff like the PvP legend in Kizaru, and then having stuff like Sabo and Ace. But as you can see, the initial team that I put out to do this with didn't use that level limit break character that they wanted. However, it did require Kazuna Rare Recruit, a Super Sugo friend captain, and a PvP legend as our captain. So it wasn't exactly perfect when we first broke down the content, but as we sort of got the juices flowing and sort of started to do it a little bit more frequently, we kind of found other replacements and stuff like that. And this particular fight, honestly, alongside the verse Luffy with the Buggy one, this is what I want Grand Voyage to be moving forward. This is what I would love to see with Grand Voyage as a whole, with more and more pieces of content coming. What we've been getting lately, and we're going to dive into that soon, it's not this, and this is like it's not perfect, but it's near perfect in the sense that you have a lot of different options to bring. There obviously is the main culprit of the Shinobu and Momo, but that is a rare recruit unit that you can literally pick up on any banner. Like, any banner at all, you can get this unit. A lot of different options in, like, Sabo, Frankie Tanky, Sabo and Ace, Ace Yamato. Any Usopp that you ever want to bring, you could just use. So, very, very nice stuff from Syrup Village. That was a big tick. Alvida's hideout, like I said, is probably a little bit too easy, but this one and the one versus Luffy at Orangetown were definitely big positives for what we saw with Grand Voyage. Alright, so then we move on to the Boreate, and then things kind of went drastically backwards from here. Now, this is where we needed a Sanji, an Int, and a full powerhouse team, and it got very, very outrageous. This was a particular fight, and I believe still is, that you need to bring Sanji level limit break 5. Limit break expanded, I believe, was like not essential, but definitely something that you really wanted when it came to the fight as well. Now, we've had rare recruits that have come out, like Rare Recruit Frankie, that have just helped out this fight a lot more. We've had more level limit breaks and more characters released that have definitely made this a lot nicer as well. But the fact that you still need, and I believe like this is a level 4 run where I don't use Sanji, I use your Rogue. And then this is a level 5 run that still needs Sanji, but then removes the concept of needing resilient sockets, was actually really, really nice. But we did have the treasure map rare recruit Shiryu. He became like an essential part. And then, like I said, there was a Frankie that came out alongside an Olin. This one right here. There was a rare recruit Frankie that was just very, very good with the Big Mom. But as I mentioned, there's also a dual unit 6+ that came out. But again, this is a lot of examples of just dual units that are just tearing through this particular piece of content. And whilst that's really, really good for that mid-game player or that end-game player that is sort of getting rewarded for actually getting them at the time, if a new player walks through the door tomorrow, in 6 months' time, still probably not going to have these units unless they prioritize them in the sense of actually getting them evolved. But characters like Olin the Orion, this particular unit right here, this one right here, was a unit and an example of a character that on release seemed to be really, really bad, but was purely made for this particular piece of content. Now, for most endgame players, you're going to sit there and say, yeah, well, I already beat this content, so why do I care? But this is a positive for Grand Voyage. Now, whilst Olin is a prime example of what makes this content a lot better, because they added a character that can just help out so drastically at taking it down, the problem still remains the same, that Sanji needs to come. You need access to that friend captain to actually bring a unit like Sanji to take away all of the paralysis and all that, and those nasty effects, all those extras. And even myself, I still don't have my Sanji level limit break 5. Like, it's still a huge problem. Plus limit break expansion on top of that too, which is a lot of investment. And if you don't have access to particular discords and stuff like that, which I would highly recommend joining, by the way, definitely go down and join discords and do all that fun stuff. But if you don't have access to that sort of stuff, finding these friend captains can be very, very challenging. But it is nice to see that they do release these types of legends. And whilst filler months are there for a reason, and PKA, obviously, there's going to be what the character's built around, I do hope that they do take Grand Voyage into consideration, kind of like what they did with this Big Mom and her point farming event and her, to actually take down these particular fights. Next comes Mihawk, and Mihawk is a very interesting one because this is one of the very first Grand Voyages that required you to have multiple level limit break characters. And when I say multiple level limit break characters, I mean the actual character needs to be level limit break 5 to get their abilities. Not just level 150 investment, but actually have their abilities available. Now, my Rayleigh wasn't at the time, but having him level limit break 5 definitely helped. You needed something like Roger Whitebeard. He was like a pinnacle unit as a friend captain, and then even using something like level limit break 5 Fuji at the time was definitely something that you needed. As time's gone on, we've definitely broken down this content a little bit more. We've taken off certain units, and as you can see, you can use no Fuji and stuff like that, but the content has evolved in the sense that you can't use a chain lock on the final stage. I believe there was a bug somewhere where they just didn't allow you to use a chain lock, so basically having Fuji now is like essential. But there is this Zoro character, this one down here, who's a 3-turn chain locker. I believe you can actually still use him. But there has been a lot of development with no Roger Whitebeard and all that kind of stuff too. But this particular fight was one of the original Grand Voyages that has a pinnacle of the bug stall strat. Bug stalling in the game, look, honestly, it should not be a thing in the game, but it definitely helps in terms of getting this type of content done. Because remember, you only have to beat this once. Once you've cleared this, doesn't matter how you do it. Like, once you clear it, resilient sockets, bug stalling, all that kind of stuff. Once you beat it, like, you're good. You don't have to go back and play this content ever again, unless you want to, for God knows what reason. Unless you're doing showcases. But this fight, whilst wasn't too crazy, was just very annoying and super gross. The fact that they wanted you to bring a bunch of characters that either way the Super Sugos or level limit break 5. Now, this particular team I put together in the sense of like, screw your level limit break 5 units. I'm just going to raw 150 power and show what I can do with level limit break 5 in other units like Mihawk, Roger Whitebeard, and Law, and then I think the Zoro was as well. So you could definitely do it with straight power, but this is a perfect example and a prime example of what the content wanted you to do with the crazy ass amount of investment that was required. So this took a lot, and even as like an endgame player, I don't want to be grinding turtles like every second of every day. And as a new game player, like, you have so much to level up, even as a mid game player, that farming out resources to take this down, yes, is something that like has to happen in sort of game development, but it's just so insane to see that not only do you need that level 100, you either need the level 150 or you need the level limit break 5. So it's just, look, it is what it is. The final part of Buriate involved versing Zoro. Now, they wanted you to bring a Mihawk for this too, and it was a back-to-back in-slasher situation. And whilst that was kind of annoying for most people, I actually genuinely liked it because it meant that we needed to just use a lot of characters that we'd already had leveled up. The downside was they really wanted to bring you not only a level limit break 5 Mihawk friend captain, they wanted you to also have a limit break expanded friend captain Mihawk. And this really restricted players because I could have a level limit break 5 Mihawk and then put my own up, but I then had to limit break expand him. And unless you had a friend that had done that for the homies and just like everyone could use that one unit, you had to do it for yourself, or if you kept stuffing up, you had to keep going back and forth and actually getting them to refresh the game. And look, a lot of people just got frustrated at that. A lot of people just weren't there for that. But it also showed that how resilient sockets were a thing of the like future when it came to this particular piece of content. Resilient sockets and surviving death shots is now a pinnacle in Grand Voyage. I don't know if the game developers know that moving forward, but like this was another particular fight where Rizuri and Socket showed their prowess, or Law showed his prowess. You could use Law to tank damage and take be left with 1 HP, or you could use Rizuri and Sockets to just sort of survive death hits, and that has become basically a staple in some teams to clear this fight. Because remember, like I said, you just need to get it done. Like it just needs to be completed. And this particular one, whilst the friend captain situation was the worst part and something that I don't want to see continue moving forward, needing particular friend captains to be limit break expanded and level limit break 5, like this was the start of something that really got us aggravated as a community. Because without it, the content was just like bang your head against the wall and really, really struggle. The exact topic of needing a character level limit break 5 and limit break expanded came Arlong at Arlong Park, and they needed a Dex Cerebral team to take it down, and this was the team that could get it done at level 5, and it was just, it was disgusting. Like, it's actually disgusting how much investment this particular team needs. Now, there are new developments in Grand Voyage thanks to the ship upgrade. And that's something I'm going to touch on at the back end of this particular Grand Voyage. But before the ship upgrade and what we got from the new ship yard and all of the abilities that ships can have nowadays, you needed specific units to hit particular amounts of debuff removal as well as give you self buffs to actually get through particular content. But this particular team was the one that it could actually get it done at Arlong Park. I just didn't have the investments. However, it did come across my desk that I could actually get it done utilizing a particular strategy. And that particular strategy is the one that I spoke about a little bit earlier, being the bug stall strat. Now, the bug stall strat helped so many people get this particular fight done. Not only did it reduce the amount of investment in terms of cotton candy you needed, because this needed like 200 attack cotton candy as well as all of the disgusting 150 developments that you guys saw, limit break expansions, extra attack that way and stuff like that. Now, I was in Japan at the time of doing this, but this was the team that I actually used to complete it. It did involve bug stalling on the very first turn to get around the burn mechanic. Now, what they wanted you to do is they wanted you to use the Crocus support on level limit break 5 Rayleigh, and then you would remove the burn that way. However, you could just bug stall it, take damage, and get around it that way, and then you could use a support on Rayleigh to just do that little bit more damage to get through particular stages. So this particular Grand Voyage, in my opinion, is by far the worst. Like, nothing compares to what this one does besides Local Sea Monster at the very beginning. But now we have a bunch of ships that help us out with this type of stuff, and namely one for this particular fight is the Thousand Sunny, I believe, is it the Thousand Sunny? Yeah, the Thousand Sunny is 1 turn of attack down. Now, this particular 1 turn of attack down was the pinnacle to help break down that particular fight, because then you didn't need to bring particular supports. You could change stuff up with Carrot and Wonder as captain, and I believe Subconti was the one to break this down. So yeah, this was Subconti's team where he actually used a level 12 ship, and this was the pinnacle of ships becoming a relative part of the game. And whilst this is a good thing with the ship upgrade allowing players to take down hard content and making it a lot easier and giving us a lot more development with team building, it kind of sucked that you still needed so much goddamn development. It still basically used the same types of units to take it down and needed the disgusting development of a level 12 ship. Now, this was a huge problem. Like, this, whilst is great that it helps people get this done, like, this is now opening the door for them to take advantage of the ship mechanic and use that to their advantage to break down this type of content to make it even harder or more grindy and more investy to actually beat this type of content. But overall, Arlong Park sucked. I haven't touched it since initially beating it. Shout out to Subconti for making more teams and other people doing more level 3 teams. But honestly, this one is a nightmare. Just focus on those types of characters and just move on. Like, we've had Dex characters like Koala and Robin and Black Marine Ulti, I believe. But honestly, I'm not touching this content with a 10-foot pole because I hate this fight. I don't know, it's because I was in Japan and like I didn't want to do it at the time as well. But yeah, it's a nightmare. This, like I said, this is like Local Sea Monster times 20. But like I said, with ships being now levelable, it did make it a little bit nicer. Following the verse Arlong, we actually had verse Luffy at Arlong Park as well. And this was an interesting one because they wanted us to bring Arlong, and Arlong was a character that wanted one of every type. So what they did was they made one of every type for the Grand Voyage, which I was not actually like super opposed to be honest. I actually really liked the concept of making us bring one of every type. However, because it was then class restricted, once again, we fell into that trap of only bringing particular units. And shout out to Subconsi for this particular team. It actually worked very, very nicely. But the team that they wanted you to use initially needed a level 12 ship. And that's what I was talking about with the one with the Nami team. Opening the door for them to just say, okay, sweet, we're actually now going to be like, hey, use a level 12 ship and you can get it done and you're all good. On top of level Limit Break 5 and having your fully teamed 150 to Limit Break expansion, now really made it very, very constrictive. However, they did release Blackbeard like the month of, and a support unit that works insanely well against this particular fight. Now, this is not something that I want to see moving forward all of the time. However, the release of this character being Blackbeard, allowed people to actually get it done without all of that crazy investment. However, it obviously did require summoning and stuff like that, but eventually, you're going to pick up Blackbeard from a ticket. Eventually, if you're doing the discounts on the support banner, you're going to pick up the squad unit that made this whole run actually possible. So, this one, honestly, whilst in the moment kind of sucked a little bit because it was like, shit, we need a level 12 ship. This was a great example of development of power creep very, very early to actually take down the fight. On top of that, we've had stuff like Magma Kaido come out since then as well. Using something like Kaido and Queen works exceptionally well for this fight as well. And then you can use stuff like, I think someone used like Black Maria. And this one honestly wasn't too bad. It was a great example of how power creep units that are attainable can actually take down the actual fight very, very nicely. Again, the downside is that we did see level 12 ships sort of take over the reins of this particular fight and really must have, if not having these other characters. But this is a perfect example of a great piece of content that will get easier with the release of new characters and sort of being broken down in particular ways. This did involve a strat where you could like close the app to like maximize your orb rolls, which was another really, really great strategy at like sort of breaking the fundamentals of the game to actually get this done. But overall, Arlong Park against Luffy really wasn't that bad, especially since we got Kaido's release and some other like very, very powerful powerhouse characters as well. Next, we're moving to Lode Town against Smoker, and this is where we are currently at with Grand Voyage. And I'll touch on the latest Grand Voyage, which I recently just did complete. But this one is very interesting because, again, this is a situation where they want you to have a level Limit Break 5 team with, like, Boa needs to be level Limit Break 5 and Limit Break expanded in some particular teams. They wanted you to have the Katakuri maxed out as well. Plus, even with that, they wanted you to have the Liberal Hind as well. Now, this is a level 3 run with the level 5 team. Without the Liberal Hind, you just couldn't get it done. The damage just wasn't there. And again, this is where they sort of open the door to say, hey, ships are helping people beat Grand Voyage. So now we're going to make ships essential for Grand Voyage. But as the community does, utilizing stuff like resilience sockets, utilizing the close the app strat to maximize sockets, this content did get completely broken down. And I love this. Like, I actually love this so much. With, again, a level 12 ship helping out the case, bringing the attack down. Again, still needing a level 12 ship. But that ship mechanic allowing so many more teams to be built and to beat this particular fight means that we just have an array of different options now. So, whilst gating a team behind a ship was a little bit of a problem, now we have so many ships in the game that you have other options here and there. Now, you can use strats like this where you close the app and reopen it for orb rolls and stuff like that. That's always going to be a really, really good thing. And this team from Forest, shout out to him, it uses resilience sockets, which again is a great thing to see back in the game. Even though I hate using them, it is great to see a mechanic be revived to take down hard content. And if you don't like using these particular strats, just be mindful, just like you saw with Blackbeard and Squad, there will be other characters that can come out and actually get this done. But again, the problem remains the same, that you still need, like, Boa level limit break 5 was like an essential unit across a multitude of different teams. Katakuri level limit break 5 is basically essential across a multitude of different teams. And some of the supports that you guys need, Friend Captain Sabo level limit break 5, and having Gear 5, who's a super Sugafest exclusive that has a 6+ that some people don't have access to, and then the hero support and all that fun stuff being level 12 ships. That is the real crux of the problem when it comes to this type of content. Alright, finally, wrapping up with the latest Grand Voyage against Luffy level 5 with Smoker. Now, there are 2 teams out at the moment that can get this done. Basically, it is the exact same team that you see right here, except the captains of Bardo and Kuzan are just swapped. If you guys are trying this, I would highly recommend using Kuzan as a friend captain. A lot more people have Limit Break expanded Kuzan. I recently actually beat this with this team, so shout out to Rizzy and the Kettle of Idiots. If you guys are watching this video and you guys know who you are, let me know down below. Give me a Kettle of Idiots, hell yeah. But this particular Grand Voyage, honestly, wasn't as bad as what we saw from the last Grand Voyage. It doesn't use a crazy ship, doesn't need a level Limit Break 5. Smoker, because Smoker doesn't have one. However, it does have 3 other legends on the team that are all level limit break 5. On top of that, they are super evolved. So this is a prime example of a problem for mid-game players. And when you get to this particular fight, you are going to really struggle because Bardo, I actually think Bardo doesn't need his own. I don't think he's in the Kasuna shop. I think he just needs regular skulls, which you can only buy from Rayleigh's Bazaar. So if you're a bit of a whale, you can pick them up there. Or you can use them from, like, not super evolving other characters, or that Kazuna ticket shop. Whitebeard has his own one. You have to unlock that, which is okay. But then Tesoro is behind the Rumble shop, so you have to use Rumble Rumble tickets to unlock that, and then you have to get lucky finding a Kuzan, I guess, as a friend captain if you don't have that, or you have to ask your buddies to put him up. But it does take a level limit break 5 and limit break expanded Kuzan friend captain, and the investments are all level 150. Like I said, the upside here is you don't need a level 12 ship, but like we saw with Nami, the level 12 ship might unlock the door to some other particular teams. Now, this particular fight here is a prime example of what we don't love about Grand Voyage. The fact that they have literally looked at the content, they have designed particular stages for particular units. Like Tesoro was built for this stage, Whitebeard was built for the last stage, and that is the problem with the creativity of the content, right? A lot of other hard content within this game involves us breaking it down and beating it in different ways, whether it be faster, whether it be slower, whether it be stronger, whether it be weaker. That's what makes OPT so fun. It's a puzzle game, and when they basically build a puzzle that only has a select amount of pieces, that not only need to be pieces, but need to be maxed pieces that people don't have, that's when it becomes an absolute problem. So for myself, I am not a huge fan of Grand Voyage, but hey, it exists in the game, and like I said, I will definitely admit that it is some of the hardest content in the game for a reason, because of all of its investment, all of its gimmicks, and all of that other funky stuff that it does throw at us. So if you got this far in the video, it's been going on for a little while now. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of Grand Voyage. Whilst I do think it's the worst game mode in the game, purely for all the reasons that I've stated, needing the insane investment, needing restricted characters, there has been a lot of progress in what we've seen when it has been banging your head against the wall mentality. Local Sea Monster is now doable with 5 units. Alvida's Hideout, Shell's Town, all of these new characters that come out for this content, like the Beriate, and with releases of 6+s, means that you will be able to get this done. So don't stress too much if you aren't enjoying Grand Voyage. You can always wait for a team to come out, or you can wait for some more units to come out and give it a crack yourself. You can always try level 3 and then go back to level 5 at the time. But as I said at the start of the video, way back when, however many minutes ago, please, if the developers are watching any of this, the one thing I really pray that you guys take out of it is just remove stamina from Grand Voyage. I believe if you remove stamina and you make it a game mode that anyone can play at any time, then it's going to be more than okay. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to belt the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts and opinions of the game mode in the comment section below, and while you're down there, give it a thumbs up. Most importantly, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.